Picture this, the perfect outdoor dining setup from Wayfair, delivered right to your door. Create a space that's ideal for hosting summer dinner parties for all your friends. Upgrade your backyard for summertime hangs with Wayfair's easy outdoor hosting essentials.
My father. He may be gone, but what he was is in me and my siblings. So part of him is still. Because you know him. Your parents, by the school system, and by society. You either did what you were told or you were rejected completely. My father did, on the surface, what everyone else expected of him, much of his life. But at the same time, he also had a part of him that rebelled against that, a part that knew was very, very wrong. That part came out sometimes. It was seldom, but it was there. A quiet rebellion, you might say. He was into Boy Scouts, becoming a scoutmaster, and was into camping, car camping, and into a sailboat. And a sailboat, as everyone knows, is probably one of the most nonconformist, illogical, and ridiculous things that anyone can own, often referred to as a hole in the water to pour money into. Camping, on the other hand, while it might seem sort of conformist, the fact is, going out in the woods and nature really does help a person to put things in perspective, especially out here in Oregon, where you can go to the Bull Run watershed an hour east of Portland and be among trees that are 4 times older than the country itself, an ecosystem that has existed for hundreds of thousands of years, long before humans ever set foot in it, and in fact includes white or Native Americans, and owes nothing to any person. Last of all, a real dictator in the White House like my father was young, or the wannabe dictator in the White House today. And the event in my father's life that really clued me into his quiet rebellion was in 1988, when the company he had worked at on Cascade Avenue in Tigard, Siemens, closed its doors and moved its manufacturing to Jackson, Mississippi. My dad may have been willing to conform on many things, but what he saw in 1988 was all too common in business. A bunch of C-level executives that didn't understand the company that employed him or them or its market, making decisions that were harmful to the company that was feeding them. This was his job, how he made his money and supported his family, and he knew that loss of income would threaten his family. He also knew it would threaten and harm other families that worked there, and he was right. The Siemens move caused a new company, Passcore, to be formed in Forest Grove, which then proceeded to eat up the most profitable bits of the Siemens power switching division's market. Passcore even boasts about this to this day on their company website. My father was thus faced with the dilemma of the no-win situation. Remain silent and personally benefit by basically stepping on other people, or personally lose by speaking out for what is right in the hopes of making a difference, even though you likely will fail. It is the same decision made by people who protest at No Kings or the ICE building. And my father chose his conscience. He took a financial loss doing it, And he didn't make a difference to the ultimate decision. Siemens did move, even though that move cost them at least 38 years of AirSwitch revenue, and probably far more since Pastor is still in business with no sign of failing. And the Siemens execs that made that damaging decision are gone and nobody remembers their names. Of course, my father found other jobs and continued working, got my siblings through college, and his life went on. His work in the Rotary Club was also non-conforming. Rotary appears on the surface to be very conforming, dedicated to humanitarian and community improvement and all that good stuff. But what is always forgotten in this surface view is that in order to improve something, you must call out what is broken in the first place. A community that is working properly, a society that functions properly, cannot be improved and does not need Rotary. When Rotary gives food to poor people at Christmas and Thanksgiving, they're calling out to the rest of the society, you are very screwed up people who have created the society with poor people in it. My father was saying that every time he handed out a food box. I think my father started out his life by being raised in the always conform camp, as most of his generation were. But over his life, I think he realized that this culture of conformity was producing some very evil things. Nationally, you had things like the murder of Emmett Till, the Vietnam War, Nixon's illegality, and his guarantee of impeachment, followed by immediate conviction if he didn't resign, and the Iran-Contra sellout and shameful mute Marine. And at the local level, it produced the evilness of destroying a company he worked for that provided support for its employees and their families. And all of that taught him that we all need to seek out what really matters in life and speak out, even if it's an inconvenient truth and makes people uncomfortable, because it doesn't conform. And no, you won't get along with everyone all the time doing it this way, that's a given. But if you are also willing to conform sometimes when it really doesn't matter to you, but matters a lot to someone else, then you'll be forgiven. And I've come to the realization in my life that it is a far harder thing for someone like my dad to break free of these chains of conformity than someone like me who always knew those chains existed from the day I came out of the womb as a non-conforming breech birth. There are nasty people out there doing nasty things. Dad was not one of those nasty people, but in his way, he was a warrior who fought them. He didn't do it by being a social justice warrior or a street protester. He didn't change the world in a big way. And he didn't go down in history to be remembered forever and ever by everyone in the society with either a shaken fist and a curse or a thank you and a blessing. But for a brief span of decades, he got a happy life, happy marriage, a career he enjoyed, and he helped who he worked with, and 3 children and a family. And he helped a lot of people, both in and out of his career and throughout his life. He made his little corner of this giant, complex, good and evil world, this contradictory society he lived in, bright and beautiful. He never tried for greatness, but nevertheless, because he made a small corner of the world good.
Well, I accomplished and overcame my first fear, and that's